Well, hello and hello B-siders, and welcome to another episode of the Living on the B-side podcast, a podcast that is for all you quiet and introverted humans out there who are music lovers and just want to put a bit of a different spin on your life by using music a bit more and maybe in a different way. So welcome everybody. And today is guest interview day, and I'm super excited to have my first guest for this year, and it's the lovely Michelle. Hello Michelle, how are you going?
Hello, yes, I'm good, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you here. Now Michelle, I think I'm going to switch it up a little bit this time round. I would love for you to introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and also how important music is in your life, and then we can go into the rest of the interview, if that's all right with you.
Sure. I'm a conscious business coach, so I work with service-based entrepreneurs predominantly, and my whole career has been based around the service element, so supporting people and supporting teams, supporting scale-ups and startups and SMEs to improve their internal culture, their business models, their strategies, and really grow together as a team. And the whole thing for me really there is the connectivity. So everything that I've done leading up to my business launch a couple of years ago was all around making sure that everything was connecting itself. And that's where I kind of come in with a unique conscious framework about that. So it's blending spirituality and spiritual frameworks and spiritual practices in with business strategy. And I kind of did that naturally at the start of my career. And then people were like, oh, that's odd, that's different. Oh, that's new. And I kind of developed this method of conscious working. So going in somewhere and not doing the traditional kind of small business frameworks that people had and the methodologies that they used, and introducing some things that were more conscious and more spiritual based practices within a business setting, which for an entrepreneur works really well. And I found that it works really well in my life and on my journey, and I now teach that and coach that.
Oh, wonderful. Sounds really interesting. So we hopefully dive into that a little bit more around with the music connection, hopefully. Yeah, so how long have you been doing it? You said that this particular way of doing it about 2 years, was that right?
Well, I launched my business about 2 years ago.
Okay.
But I've been doing it for over 13 years now. For the business strategy. So yeah, I'm part of the furniture and the business strategy side of things. That's how I feel about it. But I do really enjoy it. And the part of me is extremely spiritual. I do a lot of Reiki, Quantum-Touch, some like healing. I'm training to be a medium at the moment, which I'm finding amazing. And a lot of my journey, and this is where the music piece really comes in for me. A lot of my journey has been kind of understanding healing and the scientific parts of astrology, and bringing all of those things in so that it's really relatable and easy for people to understand and use and integrate to help them in their journey wherever they are. For me, the music piece is 3 things. It's joy. It's absolute joy when you listen to a piece of music that you love, right?
Yeah.
And it's healing. So I've done lots of different kind of ceremonies and different practices with which I can talk about a bit later, that is to do with healing. So it's emotional healing. I'm using different music, different types of music, and different traditions in music. And 3 is work. So I use music when I do deep time work, which is something I teach a lot and I talk a lot about because I feel it's so important for focus and flow. And I use a lot of music in that. So if I don't listen to music when I'm trying to do some deep time work, my deep time work isn't as deep. It's not as rich. I find that it's not as effective if I don't pair that with music. And that for me is a game changer. Actually, that whole method is a game changer in terms of being able to really get into a good flow state yourself.
Wow, that is, I always love when people in business use music to work and help others, and I always find it so fascinating the different ways of how people do it, and yours obviously is, you know, just what you explain. It just kind of blows my mind that you can connect this and really help people to flourish, and from what I understand also kind of find their own kind of jam and their own kind of flow and put the pieces together, and all that by kind of using some shape of sound or music. So yeah, how do you remember when you became conscious about that, how that works, how you sort of just go with that and use it to help other business owners or other businesses to kind of use sound or music to improve and help with growth or whatever it is in business? Because business can be so dry, and music always feels like makes it better. So when did you first sort of consciously notice that this is kind of that makes you so different to other people doing maybe the same or similar things?
I think it started as a personal thing. I realized that when I was listening to music, I was having days where I felt low at the end of the day, and I couldn't quite work out why. Like I felt disconnected or preoccupied or chaotic in my mind. And I realized that it was the music that I was listening to. So I used to travel into London. So I live just outside of London in an area called Hertfordshire. And I used to travel into London on the train. So a lot of my train journey, my commute, was either reading a book or it was listening to music. And most of the time it was listening to music. And I realized how it affected me, the type of music I was listening to, going into work and coming back home from work on that train, because the train journey for me was about an hour and a half commute. So it was 3 hours of music a day. That's not even including during the day at work, whatever was playing in the office, or being at home and listening to some music when I got home. So I realized that it really affected my mood. And people say that, but I really experienced that for myself. And it got me to thinking, what can I listen to that's going to improve my mood? And I started noticing that people were listening to really pumped up songs like Eye of the Tiger, or like some real classical, rocky style, pumped up songs. And that had equally a detrimental effect from what I could see with other people. And the reason I say that is because music will unconsciously affect your mood. And then you consciously think you're making a decision or you're acting in a certain way, but it's covering something else up. What I mean by that is, if you are doing a piece of work, say you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to do this particular new service, something that doesn't particularly resonate with you, that you're not comfortable with, but you learned it in a course or you saw somebody else do it and you think, I should be doing this for my business. And you think I should be doing this for my business because everybody else is. And I've been told that this is the best way to make money or to have my business success. And then instead of sitting with that idea and consciously thinking, how do I feel about doing X, Y, and Z in my business? You do it because you think you should be doing it. And you try and find these tools to patch up over the fact that it doesn't quite align with you and pump yourself up. So you are using this music as a tool to pump yourself up, but it's covering up something that actually you don't want to do. And I'm not saying these types of songs aren't good for different things, but I've seen it in a work environment work like that. So, okay, what can we do to get ourselves pumped up and excited about this? But rather than thinking, and music is a good one for that. So I remember I started my university life in theatre arts. So when we were doing some bits of, working on the set or doing some recordings and things like that, we'd listen to music in the stage room, and it was like pumping us up. But actually, it was like a false sense of, do you know that nervous excitement vibration that you get when you're not quite sure about something? That kind of like you're floating up. That's inhibited, I found, and I've seen and I've experienced myself, that's inhibited by music as well. And I was like, but music is such a good tool. Music is so nourishing. How can I use that in my life to be nourishing rather than to cover something up? And I know that's a really strange thing to notice, but it's just what I was noticing happening. And when I started listening to music, and it was actually like kind of like a trancey deep house type of music that was wordless. And when I started listening to that while I was doing my work, I realized that my creativity was flowing stronger and I was able to concentrate more. And the no words during work time was really important for me, to not get distracted or to not be influenced by the storyline of the song.
Right. So, yeah, I've just been kind of thinking while you were explaining that, how that could work in, like, or how is it working at my end? And I did notice over the last sort of few weeks, I tend to prefer, those YouTube clips where you just have like rain noise, or it's like, at the moment, I really enjoy the sort of chalet type of snowstorm with a fire crackling in the background. And if I have that on, I can really zone in, and it just gives me this really cozy feeling, and I feel like it just feels good. Whereas sometimes, like you say, if you have songs like that, other songs where like the dance tunes or whatever it is, you want to just bob along to it, but you're not focused. So is that kind of what you mean?
Absolutely. It works in two ways. It's that, exactly that. It's just the music. It's just the construction of the music. But also how it makes you feel because of how you relate to the song. Think about it. If you break up with somebody, if you're in a relationship and you have a breakup, if all you do is listen to sad songs, you are reliving the loop. You're not dealing with your emotions. You're not looking within. You are trying to soothe yourself from the outside in rather than the inside out. When you have something that doesn't help you to heal. I mean, that's where the healing part for me comes in as well. It's understanding what you're listening to and why, and what is that actually doing to you. You get this a lot with mainstream music because the lyrical element comes in quite a lot. So if you are in a sad place and you listen to sad songs, you're not going to feel on top of the world, are you?
No.
But it's a question of being conscious about that, and why am I staying in this loop? Is it because I feel more comfortable here rather than actually dealing with the emotion that's underneath all of this? You know, and you can get quite deep there, and music is used a lot with trauma therapy. Sound baths are amazing with trauma therapy, and for real radical healing. And that, you know, the sound baths obviously don't use any music, it's just the frequency, the vibration of the tones. But being really aware about, and I've really kind of tried to hone this in on myself over the last few years, being really aware of what's going to help me through music, because it's such an important element of most parts of life. Because you hear sounds all the time. If you hear a sound that makes you jump, do you know the feeling where you get a shock from your body? It's like an electric shock if you just hear a sudden sound. You know, it affects you in ways that we can't consciously see with our eyes, or like be consciously aware of. It does affect your mood.
Yeah, absolutely. And now you're explaining it this way, it does make sense to me, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers or listeners will hopefully agree, and if not, definitely start to think about it. And that's what I kind of love about music. It's a free tool that can really do so much for us, but it's just us knowing how to actually use it. And that's why I think people like you obviously play such an important part to highlight this. And I think I kind of feel like you might even do it in a little bit of a sneaky way where people don't even realize what they're doing. Is that true? Does that happen to you often when you work with your clients, that they go, I didn't even realize you were doing that? Does that happen to you?
It does with the more spiritual side of things. So if I'm doing something that works on a Reiki level, a quantum touch level, or like a lot of the work that I've done over the last few years has been to do with shamanic practices. So one of the tools that was game changer for me in my own healing journey was shamanic drumming, which is it can be really simple. It's a simple drum beat that lasts for 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, depending on the type of thing you're doing. It's a simple drum beat that you do what they call a journey. So it's like it's similar to a meditation, but it's a very ancient shamanic practice that enables you to go into a different state, like a meditative state, and what they call sometimes a trance state, and go through like a visionary, usually like a visionary journey, very similar to a meditation. And this simple drum beat keeps. I still remember the first time I did it. It was so steady and so strong, but so safe at the same time. It enabled me to be able to go through that healing process during that journey. And there's obviously different elements in there. There's the teacher, there's the person that holds space, there is the intention of that kind of ceremonial practice. But shamans and shamanic tribes use this technique all the time, and it's ancient. And they used to create musical instruments with whatever they had. And the other thing that they do, which is really interesting, which is beautiful, actually, not just interesting, it's beautiful, is they used to honor, because they have like the 4 directions, like north, south, east and west, the 4 directions, and they used to honor the animal, like their whole medicine makeup, and they used to honor the animal that they had created the drum from. So obviously, like going back many years, it was all animal made, animal skin. And it was part of honoring the animal for, like, they had the buffalo drums with a buffalo skin, and honoring the fact that they got food and shelter and warmth from that one animal. And it was just, I've got goosebumps talking about it. How they integrate the appreciation for the world that we live in. And that richness of the simplicity of that drumbeat was so powerful for me. And it's something that I use. And I think I understand it because I've loved it and lived it for a few years. But when I do it for a client now, they don't necessarily, I haven't got time to explain, obviously, the whole thing, and they don't have time to absorb or integrate that part of it. But it still is effective. Because I remember I was with somebody actually a few weeks ago, and she said, I can't do this. I can't meditate. I can't picture these things on my own. Like, I can't do it. I find it too difficult. And I said, okay, try this thing. So subliminally, yes, it came in there, and she, she wasn't sure what to expect. And she came out of it, and she'd gone from A to Z on that journey and had a huge, beautiful transformation during that process. And it was 20 minutes. But with that use of the drumbeat, if we'd just gone through talking, it doesn't have the same effect. But using the drumbeat that in that scenario and that setting really helped support the entire space.
I mean, that sounds amazing. And God, that makes me want to try it out, to be honest. Now, obviously, you said that with that shamanic drum beats, the best way to obviously do it is by having a guide who helps you out, explains to you what's going to happen, and walks you through that process. But what if we don't have that and we still want to try it out, or just, can we just listen to it? And do you have any sort of advice how to do it right, so it's actually, so that you kind of honor it as well, and you're not just doing it and you do it wrong, and it's sort of, because I always feel like if it's something so spiritual, it should be honored and done the right way, so it's not kind of disrespectful almost. So is there any sort of tips you can maybe share on how to do it without having a guide, but you still want to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do it a lot on my own. And the one thing that I would say is the intention is really important. So your intention of what you're doing. So be true to the intention that you're doing something for. I'll give you an example. If you do any kind of meditation or any kind of journeying where you are trying to do something outside of yourself, i.e., trying to find something out about someone else, I personally always say that's a no-go. You never go into something like that to do something or to affect somebody else. You do it for your own personal growth. You don't go into somebody else's space. You don't take their energy. You don't draw on their energy. You don't push out to them with your own energy. You do it for yourself. And that's the intention. Because some people, if they're feeling vulnerable and they are, their focus is on somebody else, that's all they're thinking about. But that's, for me, where the intention goes wrong, and it shouldn't be for anybody else outside of you. It should be for you. So that's the number one thing, is the intention and focusing on you. But there's loads of different tracks on YouTube or various different platforms where you can get drum beats. They do differ slightly. If the drum is different, if the skin is different, if the heat around the drum, if it's a natural drum, is different, then the sound will be different. There'll be lots of different. It sounds the same to simple drumming, but there's lots of different ones that you can use, and find one that works for you. Find one that you feel. For me, when something resonates for me, I feel it in my gut. Like I feel it like in my lower belly, in my belly, and I get goosebumps, and I'm like, yes, that's the one for me. I just feel it in my body. So feel it in your body. However, that for some people, it just is a feeling in their heart. Some people, it's kind of like a tingling on their skin. It's just a lightness, or it's just a knowing. So find one that really works for you, and you'll know within a few seconds. Use your intuition for that first few seconds of listening to something to know whether it really resonates for you, and use that one. And there's some scripts, and I'm happy to share a script with you on how to do the meditation, but you can just use that as a meditation. And there's some guided ones as well. There's some really nice guided ones around, so that you can be guided, because then it takes the pressure away of doing it yourself.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Good starter tips. And if you have any that you want to share with obviously us here living on the B-side, I'm happy to put the links in the episode description. And hopefully we get some feedback on anyone who tried it and what the experience was. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. Now, I love everything we've talked about, and I love the way you integrate it, not just into your personal life, but also in your business. Now, let's switch gears a little bit here. I'm sort of thinking about, let's go in the direction of a bit more, what's sort of your favorite song that you have? Have you got one? Because I know some people are like, I can't choose. But have you got a favorite song? And if you have, which one is it and why?
I do have a favorite song, and the song is the feeling that I got when I first listened to the song. But it is like, I totally get that it's so hard because there's so many different moods and different moments as well that we associate with songs. But there's a song by Michelle, and it's called Live Like a Warrior. And the first time I heard that song, I felt like I'd been shot up into the sky. It was obviously the right moment for me to listen to that song and those lyrics. But that's my favorite song. And whenever I feel a little bit like I need a bit of a push, that's my push song. Mm-hmm. That's my, like, I need that moment. It gives me a moment that I absolutely adore. And that's my favorite song. And we all go through different things with life, and I think finding music that helps you, it's very hard to describe. Finding a piece of music that helps you honor your past and be excited for your future, and that's what this song does to me.
Oh wow, yeah, that's kind of hard to find. It can be hard, but I'm glad you have, and I did check it out, and yes, I really like it too. It's especially the lyrics, because I think a lot of people can probably relate to that so much. And I'll pop the link to the YouTube song as well in the episode description, because everyone should listen to it and make up their own mind. But I'm sure everyone will agree it's a beautiful song. Right, we've covered the drumming, which you kind of introduced me to when we sort of started chatting about you coming on. And I really love that. It sort of speaks to us, and I don't know how to describe this, but on a deeper level, it feels more like your ancestry kind of comes through, even though where I'm from, I'm not sure. They more had the alphorns, remember, like the big sort of alphorns. I'm thinking they probably used that. I'm not sure how that could get you in a trance, but anyway, served the purpose. So so it's, I find it amazing. So how do you actually work, apart from the spiritual side of things that you do for work? You also obviously work with probably a bit more of a drier side, I imagine, sort of business to business and maybe individuals. Is there a way for you to integrate that kind of sound or music effect as well? Or is that something you'd rather keep for more the spiritual Reiki kind of side of your business, or does it all nicely flow together?
It kind of does what you just did there. It kind of just flows. So it comes together and then it goes apart and comes together. But ultimately it runs on the same vein, because it's all about you. Whatever you're doing is all about you. The reason these tools and these kinds of these tips come in handy for entrepreneurs, and they really are effective, is because when you step into that space and when you run your own business and when you're in that frame, you are 100% exposed to things that you weren't before. It puts you in the uncomfortable. It brings things up, and I'm sure lots of people can resonate with this. It brings things up that you didn't even know were there. Particularly emotions and different perspectives, and having to shift your own perspective and have the courage to step away and step back and say, okay, I'm not gonna go with the crowd here. I'm gonna do what I feel is right for me, whether it's your family, your friends, or your work colleagues, or whatever it might be. And I think that's where it really blends in, because things are thrown up in business that need attention, and they need to be processed. And that's where it can go. So something comes up in the work experience and you think, what am I going to do? I mean, sometimes for me, if I'm frustrated with something I'm working on, or I'm feeling stuck, or I'm feeling like I just can't push through, or there's that kind of irritation that comes in, I'll put a song on in my headphones, and I tend to not put it on the speaker. I put it in my ears so I can really have a bubble. And I dance. and it just to move my body, change the energy, change the space, just shake it out. And I'll dance, I'll do something, just any song that comes on. I'll sometimes go to my pop list, or I'll sometimes go to like a different kinds of, like a rock list. I'll go to different things for just something that will shift me. And the intention of that piece is just to shift. So when I'm doing my coaching, if we're talking about something that feels a bit dry, because I really love business strategy, because I think it can express the right things to the right people at the right time. And you need people doing things authentically, because it's not what they're doing, it's how they're doing it that shines out, that then actually influences other people.
Yep. Okay.
You have two people saying the same thing, and it's the authenticity and it's the strength of that person and the commitment to the truth of what they're saying that really makes you feel inspired. And you can only get there by working on yourself. So that's where, that's for me where they come both in. I mean, with the deep work, a lot of people don't do music when they deep work because they think it's going to be distracting. But I mean, there's been lots of studies done on classical music when you're working, and about how there's lots of stuff that says how it can make you more intelligent. But the bottom line is it will, because the music beat is slower, and it tends to be slower, or there's a whole language within a classical piece of music. And it will just try it. If you haven't tried it before, try it. Try doing try doing work to classical music, and then try doing work to something else, and see the results, but how you feel about doing the work that you were doing.
Yeah. So I'm gathering it's a lot about how the individual, or how I feel about the music. That's the most important piece. And then I can use that to work on myself and get into that flow where things are more authentic. So that's how I feel or hear what you're saying. Is that kind of right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it has to work for you. People will do different things. The one thing I'll say is be very careful of lyrical music when you're working. It will distract you, and it goes in.
Oh God, yeah. How many times have I tried that, and in the end I was just like doing all this, singing along, and I didn't do the work. So I can understand that very well.
Yeah, but even if you're not consciously, like, even if it's a song that you don't know, it does go in. I mean, sometimes I love listening to music that is from a different country where I only speak English. So it's that if I listen to a piece of Spanish music, or a piece of Greek music, or a piece of Italian music, and there's the lyrics, I don't relate to the lyrics, I don't know what they mean, I just appreciate the melody and the song and the whole sentiment of what I'm picking up through that. It could be completely wrong, but because I don't know the words. But sometimes that's okay. If I'm doing some brainstorming, or I just want something else in the background, and I shift it. So if I think in the morning I'm going to do some brainstorming, I'll usually put on something that's more energetic. And then and that's usually where I'm moving around the room, that's where I might have that dance mode. I'll put on a track to just shift the energy if I feel a bit stuck. And then when I come down to do some serious work, let me rephrase that. So it's all serious work.
It is.
When I come to do some focus work, when I really want to focus and I want to go deep, when I want to do one thing really well and I want to go deep and really crack something, that's when I'll switch to no word music. And that's when I'll go into like a deep house type of melody music, or like an organica music I love while I'm working as well.
I was just thinking back when you said, the deep house music or whatever it is, I don't know if that has any relevance or connection at all, but I was thinking back when I was younger to my clubbing days. And there was a time during the early mornings when that club music or house music or trance music, as they call it, just when you just on the dance floor and all you do is you just move, you don't think, you just are and you just be. And that's sort of what reminded me of when you said when you want to do the deep kind of work, you just need that kind of music that helps you to get to that level of just letting it go.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's interesting. Most coders I know will listen to some kind of deep house. I mean, that could just be my small, relatively speaking, in terms of the world. But most of the coders I know will listen to like some kind of, because it's repetitive as well. And when you're doing something where you need to keep going one step in front of the other, having that support, that underpinning support of that rhythm really helps. It really does help. But you're right, it puts you in the moment. And we spend so much time not being in the moment, when actually the moment is all we have. It takes one moment for an idea to come in. You don't get a download. Do you know, when you're thinking, oh, what should I do? What should I name this course? What should I do for this? And what should I name my podcast? What should I, you know, what's my 2022 goals? You know, whatever it is that you're thinking about, it takes one moment for that idea to come in.
Yep. I agree.
If you think back to any inspired piece of work or action taking that you've done, it's that one moment. And we spend so much time avoiding that one moment that music puts you back in it.
Yeah.
Live music does as well. Yeah.
Oh, don't start me on live music.
It's a favorite.
I love it. I grew up on, well, I was introduced to live music at a very early age through my mum, meaning concerts, but she also worked in a nightclub where they had live bands. So that for me was a massive influence, and appreciation too for people who actually play the instrument, who learn the craft and who do well. So yeah, live music is one of the best things ever. So yay.
I completely agree. I remember being with somebody who played the handpan, and she just played it for meditation. Like, she would say, whenever I play this handpan, that's I'm in a different world. It just transported her somewhere else, that she used it for like a meditation for herself. But we used to sit around and listen to her, and it was listening to it on a, you know, electronic device, on your tablet, your phone, or whatever, is one thing, and it can do something. It creates a space that you create in wherever the environment that you're in. But when you're live and you listen to music like that, it's amazing. The other time that this was really prominent for me, I was in Lithuania last year, and there was somebody that came in to do just some drumming, just to play some live music, and he was unbelievable. He was amazing. He was a brilliant musician. And at the end, we were talking about various different things, and he said, I don't know what I'm going to play before I come here. I said, I don't know. He didn't practice. He just feels the music, feels the audience, and plays. And it was phenomenal. It's phenomenal. Wow.
That's amazing. If someone can have that connection to themselves and his surroundings, that's beautiful. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
And musical was the vehicle for him to do that. But it can be that A to B for us as well. Yeah.
Which was one of my questions I wanted to sort of just throw at you here. Obviously, I'm an introvert. You're on the introverted side, as far as I know. Correct me if I'm wrong. And I know for us introverts, the world can be a very noisy place, and noise is obviously not good sound. It can be distracting. It can be muffling. It can be restricting. Is there any sort of advice or tips you can give anyone that's a bit on the more quiet side or the introverted side, how to really tap into themselves by using the music? I mean, you gave some really good tips already, and I suppose they can apply that, you know, already. They're great. But anything specific that maybe is specifically for us introverts that could really give us a bit of an edge or help us come out of our shell and really let go? Because I know sometimes we hold back too because we're a bit unsure. So anything that comes to mind?
For me, it would be, this is a great question. It's a great question.
Thank you.
For me, it is the healing piece. So being introverted and not wanting to be in the limelight or in the busy places or in the bars and pubs that are crazy, and you want to be, I would rather be at home with my book and my hot chocolate. And that's who I've grown into. But that's my happy place. Yeah. Not feeling like that's something that shouldn't be done. We live, depending on where you live in the world. I mean, I was born in London. I grew up in England, and success is based on how loud you shout in the office or how loud you shout at a dinner party. And we have to understand that the conditioning in a lot of places, and this, I'm being stereotypical here, this isn't always the case, but I've seen that it's often the case. And with my clients, it's 100% been the case with the people that I've worked with, is how we deal with success and how we deal with our own self-worth through what society what we perceive as society saying is successful and it is worth. And I think that's the big piece. knowing that being introverted and being quiet and not wanting to be any other way apart from who you are is absolutely perfect. And if that in itself brings up feelings of anxiety or feelings of uncertainty, that's what music can help heal.
Yes. And it's never too late to start the journey. Never. And there will always be more layers and more layers. So yes, but start. Definitely start.
As soon as you get an inkling, that's whatever language. I'm very spiritually based, and I have been since I was a kid. I always remember something happening to me that was kind of ethereal, or what people would call spiritual, or what people would call woo. But it doesn't matter what language you use. It doesn't matter if you use different language to me. Just know that you are born with an inner sense of knowing, however that feels to you, and however you describe that, whatever words you use to describe that, we are all born with that. That's a gift that we all have. And if you get something that doesn't quite feel right, if you get an inkling or just something, a knowing, if you see pictures in your head, if you hear something that just comes, however that channeling comes into you, trust that. Just trust it, because everyone is who they are. If we were all the same, we all express different unique perspectives, and that by itself is beautiful. And there's no right and wrong, and we live in a world where everything is one or the other. It's black or white, it's right or wrong. And even if we try and break out of that, once you consciously realize and you get that kind of knowing, do you know what, actually this doesn't quite feel right, sit with it, allow that to be. Allow that to be, stay in the moment and allow that to be. And don't ignore that, because that's your body, that's you, that's your deepest inner self saying stop. But life and intuition is very gentle in comparison to the very action orientated life that most of us live, because going into work, being on the train, going into the supermarket, these are all very just action orientated activities. And life is way more gentle, it's quieter, so we have to listen more.
And that's what I think us introverts or more quiet people are very good at, that. And I always found, for me personally, and this is why Living on the Beast that kind of exists, is my sort of nudges or kind of downloads always happened around music. So I feel if someone really loves music, maybe pay a bit more attention to what's going on around you. I notice a lot when I go shopping, for example, all of a sudden there's a song or two playing and I go, really? This one? That's never playing in a supermarket, but today, out of all days, it is. And for me as an introvert, it kind of helps me. It can be a confirmation, or it can be a nudge saying you got to think about this a bit more. It can be just one line out of a song, or it can just be the music. So I found that such a great compass almost in my life. And I think as introverts, we're really in tune with that. And I think, like you said, we should trust that a bit more, because you don't have to be loud. Quiet is actually almost more powerful than being loud. And for us to accept that, I find, I don't know if you agree with me on this, but once we can accept that this is actually a superpower, then things will start to get better and shift. And for me, music helps with that. So hopefully other people can get something out of our conversation we're having, and the wonderful advice you've given. I mean, I loved everything you said. So beautiful. And hopefully we can shift a few minds and get people to listen a bit more. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely send you the journeying stuff, because I think if anybody feels drawn to it and feels that it could be something that they want to explore, it's a beautiful practice. Even if it doesn't have to be as serious as what I was talking about. I mean, I've used it just to switch off, and just to be able to come out of my mind and back into my body. I've just used it to switch off sometimes, and other times I've used it for the more kind of heavier, for want of a better word, processing or kind of therapeutic side of it. So you can use anything that resonates with you and feels good for you in whichever ways feels good for you.
Great. That'd be awesome. Thank you. Now, I loved our chat, and there's so many golden nuggets in there, and I obviously have to re-listen to it so I can digest it all and really soak it all up as well. And I hope our listeners and viewers do the same. Just rewind and start from the beginning again.
I do that so often.
Well, that's what it's there for. Just go back to the start and listen to it again. Now, I always ask the one question at the end of every person interview I have with every person. And that is, if you would have to pick one song that describes your business and or your life, which one would that be? Or is it exactly the same as the favorite song that you've mentioned before?
That was the first thing that came into my head when you asked me the question.
That's fine. That's absolutely fine.
I think it would be the same. I mean, the song Live Like a Warrior, and I very much resonate and appreciate and see the warrior in everybody, regardless of if that's somebody that's really super introverted and thinks that they don't come out of their shell. You don't have to come out of your shell. There's plenty of value in being very, very introverted, because that's who you are and that's how you express in the world, as well as the other side of being extremely extroverted and going out into the world and leading a campaign on something. There's very different ways that can be expressed and seen and perceived. But for me, it is about that warrior spirit. So I would have to say the same, although there's so much out there. But if I had to choose one right now, it would be that one.
Oh, amazing. I like it. Good choice. I'll probably go and listen to it again and put it on like my playlist now, because I always love exploring new songs and learning all about new artists that I haven't heard before. So it's always great. Cool. Well, that brings us kind of to the end of our chat today. It's been a very interesting chat, and I know I've said that before, but yeah, I always love learning new things, and you definitely have shared some really, really insightful ideas and ways of using music. And hopefully, if anyone wants to try anything out, I'll put the links to it in the description of this episode. And obviously, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, they can certainly do that. And I'm sure you're more than happy to have a chat with them and see if there's anything that you can do to untangle themselves and open themselves up a bit more. Apart from that, would you like to add anything else before we say our goodbyes on this episode?
Just a big thank you. I think your podcast, I'm a fan. I'm definitely a fan, and your podcast is amazing. Music's such an important piece for people, and to be more aware of how they use it and how they can use it. So thank you so much for having me on. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. It was such a pleasure having you on and connecting with you as well. So thank you for coming into my B-side life. Okay, well, that's it for another guest episode. Thanks so much for tuning in, for listening and watching. And as I always say to all you B-siders, keep on dancing and keep on rocking. And I shall talk to you and hopefully see you as well in my next episode. Until then, you all take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.